Good evening, and welcome to Nox Historia. Tonight, we travel to the world of Lalibela. Before we go anywhere, put the day down. Let it lie where it falls. You have carried it far enough, and nobody is asking you to carry it into the dark as well. Let your shoulders come away from your ears. Let your hands open. Let the breath go long and slow, because the place we are going is 2,500 meters up in the mountains of northern Ethiopia, and the air there at nightfall is thin and cool and smells of wood smoke and roasting barley and cold stone. Nobody hurries at this altitude. Nobody ever has. We are going to a town called Roha in the highlands of Lasta in the year 1200. The king is Gebre Mesqel Lalibela of the Zagwe line, and he has held the throne for something like 20 years. His people are Agao, highlanders out of these same mountains, rather than lords of the old imperial city of Oxen away to the north. And by their own reckoning, it is not the year 1200 at all. The calendar kept here runs 7 or 8 years behind yours, and it is built out of 13 months, 12 of exactly 30 days, then a short 13th month of 5 days to settle the accounts with the sun. Their year turns in what you would call September, when the great rains stop. The harvest is in. This is the cool, dry half of the year, and the evenings are cold enough to want a fire. Here is the thing most people never learn about this place. There are churches here, 11 of them, and not one of them was built. Nobody quarried a block, hauled it up a slope, and set it on another block. The masons walked out onto a bare red hillside, marked a rectangle on the ground, and began cutting downward. They cut a trench all the way round it, deep as a house, then deeper still, until a great island of rock stood free in a pit with nothing above it but sky. Then they went at the island itself, shaping its roof, cutting its windows, hollowing out the whole inside, and leaving pillars and arches and a carved ceiling standing where they had chosen not to cut. Every one of these churches is a single piece of the mountain with a church taken out of it. And the arithmetic of that is merciless. You can add a stone to a wall that has gone wrong. You cannot put rock back. You do not need to remember any of this, not the names, not the dates, not a single number. Let it drift past you the way smoke drifts off a low fire. And if you happen to fall asleep before the end, that is exactly what this is for. So, let us begin. We come up onto the ridge above Roha in the last of the light. The mountains here do not stand in rows, they stand in every direction at once, flat-topped and steep-sided, cut about by gorges, the rock going rust-red and violet as the sun leaves it. The first thing your body notices is the breath, which is shorter than you expected and asks you to slow down. The second is the temperature, which has dropped a good deal in the last quarter of an hour and will keep dropping all night. Highland Ethiopia does this all year, every year, warm days, cold nights. The sun goes down fast this near the equator, without much ceremony about it, and the shadow comes up the valley towards you like a tide coming in over sand. Look at the slopes as the light goes. They are terraced, stepped in long curving lines that follow the contour of the hill, each shelf held up by a low stone wall. That is the whole argument of farming up here, laid out in front of you. Rain in these mountains does not come politely. It comes in one enormous season, roughly June to September, and on a bare slope it would carry the soil down to the lowlands and leave the rock behind. So the terrace catches it, slows it, holds the earth, and gives a family a flat place to plough. The ploughing is done with a single ox-drawn ard, a wooden beam with an iron point that scratches a furrow rather than turning a sod, which suits thin mountain soil that would blow away if you turned it. The crop here is teff, a grass grown almost nowhere else on earth, whose seed is so small that it takes about 150 grains to weigh what 1 grain of wheat weighs. Higher up, where teff will not go, it is barley. The town gathers along the shelf below you, quieter than a town of this importance ought to be, because the buildings absorb sound. The houses are round, built of the same red stone that is under everything here, laid up dry and neat, and roofed with a steep cone of thatch, so from above they look like a scatter of dark seeds. Many have 2 floors. The beasts live below, and the family above, which sounds strange until the first cold night, when you understand that 4 animals in a stone room are a slow, patient furnace warming the boards over their heads. Thin threads of smoke go straight up from the thatch because there is no wind at all. And ask someone the hour, and they will tell you it is the 11th, which sounds like a mistake and is not. The day here starts at dawn. Sunrise is hour 0, midday the 6th hour, sunset the 12th, and then the night begins its own 12 over again. It only works where day and night stay nearly equal all year, and here they do. At the near end of the town, the last of the day's trading is folding itself up. This is not a large market, but things arrive here from a very long way off. There are bars of rock salt, cut in the scorching lowlands to the east and carried up on the backs of animals, and those bars are money as much as seasoning. A man will pay for cloth with salt without either of them thinking it odd. Honey in sealed clay pots, dark and thick. Bundles of gesho, a bitter-leaved shrub that will go into the beer. Raw cotton from the low country. Coarse pots stacked mouth down. Iron points for ploughs. Butter wrapped and rank and precious. Somebody ties the corners of a cloth. Somebody else drives 3 goats home along the war, and the whole thing empties out in about the time it takes the light to go from gold to grey. Now come to the edge of the rock and look down, because this is what you came for. The ground in front of you simply opens. Trenches are cut into the hillside, wide and straight-sided, and standing in them, below the level of your feet, are the churches. It takes the mind a moment. You are looking down at a roofline. In the trench nearest you stands Bet Medhane Alem, the house of the Savior of the world, the largest church ever cut from a single mass of rock anywhere. 33.5 meters long, 23.5 wide, 11 high, ringed all the way round with square pillars that were never carried here and set up, only left standing when everything around them was carved away. Beyond it, a second cluster on the far side of a shallow channel of stones, dry at this season, which the people here call the Jordanos. And off on its own in a pit about 25 meters square with a sloping passage cut down into it, a church shaped like a cross when you see it from above. Bet Georgis. Somebody worked out centuries later that freeing it meant cutting away something like 3,400 cubic meters of rock and taking another 400 out of the inside to make the rooms, all by hand, chip by chip, downward. The names on these buildings tell you the intention. Golgotha, Bethlehem, the Jordan running between them. Jerusalem itself had passed into other hands 13 years before, and the road there had never been easy or cheap for anyone in these mountains. So the answer here was to make the journey shorter, a place where the same walk could be walked and the same names spoken in your own country, in your own thin, cold air. Turn away from the edge now and go in at a gateway in a low wall of stone. This is a homestead, a swept circle of hard, bare earth with the round house on one side and a stone byre on the other. The oxen have come in from the field and stand with their heads down, giving off that warm, grassy smell cattle give off at the end of a day. Hens have gone up into the thatch and stopped arguing. A dog at the gate lifts its head half an inch and puts it down again. The day's tools lean against the wall in the order they will be wanted tomorrow, and the yard has been swept, and the sweeping is the last work of the day, every day, for reasons nobody here could quite explain to you. Inside, the fire is the whole point of the room. It sits in the middle on 3 stones, low and red, more ember than flame, and the smoke finds its own way up through the thatch, which is why the underside of the roof is black and glossy as lacquer, and why nothing up there will ever rot or be eaten by insects. Over the fire is a mitad, a wide, shallow disk of fired clay, nearly the width of your outstretched arms, made by hand from clay mixed with straw and ash, then fired and cured with great patience until it will take heat without cracking. A good mitad outlasts a marriage. It is the most valuable object in the house, and nobody who owns one has ever moved house without it. The batter has been waiting 3 days. Teff flour and water, left in a clay jar with a little cloudy liquid saved from the last batch, which carries the living yeast forward from week to week and year to year, the way a family carries anything else. It has gone slightly sour, and the sourness is the point. A woman pours a cup of it onto the hot clay in a spiral, outside edge inward, quick and even, and the sound is a soft hiss and nothing more. Then a lid goes on. Underneath it, the trapped gas pushes up through the surface and breaks, and when the lid comes off, the whole round is covered in tiny open craters. They call them eyes. Cooked on one side only, never turned, lifted off soft and pale and flexible as cloth. This is injera, dinner, and also the plate, and also the spoon. Stew goes in the middle. You tear a piece from the edge, and you eat the plate last. The stew tonight is pulses, ground fine and cooked long, because well over 100 days of the year are fast days in this church, and no animal comes near the pot on any of them. And here is a small correction worth making, gently. If you have eaten Ethiopian food and remember it as fiery, that heat is not here tonight and cannot be. The chili that gives modern Ethiopian cooking its red heart comes from the Americas and will not reach this part of the world for another 300 years and more. What is in this part is ginger, garlic, black pepper, fenugreek, and korarima, a fat brown cardamom that grows in the Ethiopian forests and smells like nothing else, warm and deep and not hot at all. Everyone eats from one basket with the right hand, and now and then somebody rolls a good mouthful and puts it straight into the mouth of the person beside them, which is how affection is done here without anybody having to say anything. Along the wall stand the beer jars, barley for this, roasted dark and ground coarse, mixed with water and those bitter gesho leaves from the market, left to work in the cool of the clay for days. Gesho does for this beer what hops do for another kind. The women of the house brew it, and their beer is a currency of its own. It pays for a day of neighbors' labor at harvest. It opens a wedding. It settles an argument. In the corner, someone spins cotton on a hand spindle in the near dark, letting the weight of it drop and turn, drawing the thread out with 2 fingers entirely by feel, because after enough years, the hands need no light at all. Against the far wall, close to a small oil lamp, a man is copying a book. He works on parchment, goatskin, scraped and stretched and cut to size, because paper has not come here and will not for a long while. His pen is a reed. His black ink is soot and gum. Beside it sits a small pot of red, kept for the names of God and the saints and the openings of chapters, so a reader can find his place on a page by color alone. He is writing Gez, the language of every service in every one of those churches down in the trenches. Gez is nobody's mother tongue anymore. It went out of daily speech in the last 2 or 3 centuries, and survives now the way a good tool survives, because it is still the best thing for the job. The script is demanding. Each character carries its consonant and its vowel together in one shape, so instead of an alphabet of 20-odd letters, there are something over 180 forms to know by heart, and it runs left to right, unlike its Semitic cousins. In a monastery to the north, there are gospel books on parchment that radiocarbon dating places between the late 4th and the mid-6th century, older in this night than the churches on this hillside by centuries. Then, from somewhere below the level of the ground, singing starts. It comes out of the trenches, which is a strange thing to hear for the first time, and it arrives softened, having climbed 30 feet of cut rock to reach you. The night office. In these churches, the long service begins in the dark hours and goes towards dawn, cantors standing through it, leaning on tall prayer staves to take the weight off their feet. What they sing is called zema, and the tradition credits its whole shape to a 6th century deacon named Yared, who set the chant into 3 modes, one for ordinary days, one for fasts, one for the great feasts. None of it is written down in this century. The signs that will one day mark the melodies do not exist yet, and every hymn lives in the memory of the men singing it, handed mouth to ear for 600 years already. Long vowels held and let go, the same figure returning with the smallest of changes, so you can never say where one phrase ended and the next began. It comes up through the floor of the world and goes on for hours, and everyone in this house has fallen asleep to it every night of their lives.
Which is what happens now. The lamp is pinched out, the fire is banked, ash pulled carefully over the embers so there will be a live coal in the morning, and nobody has to go begging for one. Beds are low platforms along the wall, spread with hide and a woven blanket, and the wool goes over the shoulder and the head because the cold in these mountains comes in hard after midnight. Below the boards, the oxen shift their weight and settle, and their warmth comes up. The door is low, you have to bend to come in, and the shape of the room says plainly that this is a place for stopping. Step outside once more before we finish. The sky at this altitude, on a dry night, with no lamp burning anywhere for 100 miles, is not a thing most people alive today have seen. There is so much of it, and so much in it, that the constellations are hard to pick out among everything else. It is properly cold now. The town below is a few dozen dark cones, and no light at all. And the trenches are simply absences, black rectangles cut into a black hillside, with that slow, patient singing still coming up out of them. And this is how we know all of it. The churches are still there, which is the largest piece of evidence anyone could ask for, and archaeologists have read them the way you read layers in the ground, which trench cuts across which style follows which. The answer that comes back is more interesting than the legend. The old story says one king carved all 11 in 24 years, with angels working the night shift. The rock says something slower and more human, with phases spread across generations. Some of the earliest cuttings possibly older than the Zagwe altogether, and put to other uses before they were ever churches. We have the Gebre manuscripts, copied by men like the one at the lamp, and the king's life, written down long afterwards by people who revered him. And in the 1520s, a Portuguese chaplain named Francisco Alvarez climbed this hill and wrote home that he was afraid to describe what he had seen in case nobody believed him. They are still in use and have never once been abandoned. In 1978, they went onto the very first World Heritage List, among the first dozen places in the world named, and every January something near 100,000 people walk in for Christmas and fill those trenches until you cannot see the ground. The night office is still sung, in Gebre, in the dark, before dawn. So let that be the last soft thought. A cold, clean hillside, a red mountain cut down into churches, a clay disk over a low fire, a room that smells of sour bread and cardamom, a woman spinning without light, ash pulled over the embers for morning. Ordinary people at the top of a very old country, doing careful things slowly, because the air and the rock and the rain never left them any other option. They pulled the blanket over their shoulders, listened to the singing coming up through the floor of the world, and let go, as you, perhaps, are sleeping now. The embers have gone from red to gray under their ash. The last thread of smoke has thinned out of the thatch. The stars have the whole valley to themselves, and nothing in these mountains is in any hurry at all. So let go of the last of it, whatever you are still holding. It is not yours tonight, and it is not needed here. Let your hands go loose. Let your jaw go soft. Let the breath go slow and easy, the way everybody breathes this high up, without effort, without trying. There is nothing to answer, nothing to carry, nothing left to finish. Good night, and when you are ready to travel again, Nox Historia will be waiting.